Mickey Speedway USA definitely isn't the most well-known Nintendo 64 game. Being one of the latest releases in the N64's lifespan, it was released not only after a game from a more well-known racing franchise, but a beloved game by the same developer with similar controls and more originality. As a result, this game hasn't really taken off. It's easy to look at this game as a cheap, corporate cash grab, but in reality, it's much more than that. Behind this game lies a dedicated speedrunning community of a few dozen people. Over the years, multiple speedrunners have attempted to squeeze every last hundredth out of every track, and for the most part, they've succeeded. Some of the current records have been standing for over a decade. The game has some of the most optimized racing game speedruns out there. However, nearly a quarter century after the game's release, that's slowly starting to be flipped upside down. As far as racing games go, Mickey Speedway USA is pretty simple. There's no super advanced driving techniques. The game's time trial mode is all about having perfect lines and taking each corner as tight as possible. There's one exception though. Los Angeles is one of the game's shortest tracks. It's a pretty simple figure 8, but this seemingly simple layout allows for some quirkiness. By precisely hopping onto this ledge and driving along it, you'll be able to hop down to the lower portion of the track. In Mickey Speedway USA, the finish line extends a little bit past the actual finish line you'll see on the track. Therefore, with a precise drift, you can catch the very end of the finish area. This allows you to skip a significant portion of the first turn, saving time. It's believed that this shortcut was discovered by a player named Megatoner. The first recorded instance of this shortcut being used in a run was by runner Salt Cured Fish in December 2011. It's very possible that this shortcut was discovered and used earlier, but unfortunately there's no way to know for sure. Currently, the record stands as a tie between Hayate64 and PerfectTaste at 12.13 seconds. For comparison, the fastest lap without the shortcut on the leaderboard is over 3 seconds slower, so this time save is certainly notable. Now, as far as the speedrunning community knew, this was the only shortcut in the game's time trial mode, but that hadn't stopped runners from trying. Megatoner has been the main person looking into Mickey Speedway USA's checkpoint system for over a decade. In 2016, he found another shortcut on Hawaii. It works quite similarly to the Los Angeles one. You hop up on a wall, then drive to a previous point on the track, and hit the zone for the finish line that starts the lap. But getting on the wall to perform the shortcut requires an item that is only available in Grand Prix mode, and therefore it can't be done in time trials. Another big discovery came just a couple days before though. For a long time, Texas has been known to be quite a bit janky. For one, if you take a really tight line through the grass shortcut near the end of the track, for whatever reason it won't count the lap. This had frustrated speedrunners for years, especially since taking tighter lines is usually beneficial. But more on that later. They also knew for a long time that you could go out of bounds with items on this track. 2 runners had been attempting to use this knowledge to jump to the finish line for a potential shortcut. The first runner was PerfectTaste, who's pretty much the undefeated GOAT of this game. He's had multiple stints of holding all 42 time trial world records. The other runner attempting to pull off a shortcut here was Weatherton. While not as skilled as PerfectTaste, he still had a lot of experience time trialing the game and was also a famed Mario Kart 64 glitch hunter. However, neither runner could pull it off on console. However, in 2016, Megatoner used tasks to confirm that it was indeed possible. By continuing to drive forwards after this jump, then turning around, you could hit the finish line late, just like the other 2 discovered shortcuts. But since this was yet again only possible with items in Grand Prix, it was effectively useless. And shortcut discoveries went dormant not long after. There just weren't many tracks that had any exploitable mechanics, making it extremely difficult to find any new shortcuts. But in 2023, things would start looking up. Speedrunner Modal mentioned that the game's debug mode had an option to make checkpoints on tracks visible. Megatoner saw this and thought he could use it for potential glitch hunting. But a year went by and still no major discoveries. Until November 2024. For some time, it had been known that Everglades could occasionally not count laps. In January 2023, runner Hayate64 had posted a clip of exactly that. He took a corner tighter than he usually would and the lap didn't count as a result. Megatoner found out that the checkpoint here was either bugged or poorly coded and didn't extend all the way up to the drivable part of the wall. However, if you were to try to get some sort of glitched lap here, you'd have to hit the missed checkpoint later in the track, which isn't possible as it doesn't extend to another drivable area. But that was an extremely minuscule discovery compared to what came next. On November 27th, Megatoner posted a new discovery on Texas, a brand new shortcut. Remember earlier when I mentioned how runners had missed lap counts after taking a tight line through the grass area near the ending? Well, that was actually because the checkpoint was placed really weirdly. In Mickey Speedway USA, checkpoints will stretch across the entire track, which isn't a problem normally. However, even with this, the required checkpoint is a little bit past the start of the grass. So if you enter the grass before the checkpoint, you could completely skip it without even trying. Meanwhile, Megatoner had found out that Mickey Speedway USA is only checking 2 of the track's checkpoints at a time, the one directly in front of you and the one directly behind you. But by precisely driving backwards through the grass, you'll miss the checkpoint behind you, the same checkpoints runners had mistakenly missed before. Furthermore, this makes all the checkpoints behind that one not checked, since the game doesn't know to check them. So by continuing to drive backwards, the game doesn't think twice and is just looking for you to hit what it still thinks is the next checkpoint. And remember how checkpoints stretch across the entire track? Well, the final checkpoints of the track just so happen to stretch to the beginning of the track so you can hit them backwards in sequence. And then, after the last checkpoint's been hit, you can drive back to the finish line area and just like Los Angeles, start the lap a bit ahead and save a couple seconds. In January 2025, another big discovery would take place. Speedrunner Garby had seen the previous talk about Everglades, as well as the recent shortcut discoveries, which reminded her of something that occurred to her on Everglades. She was playing the track in Grand Prix when her lap didn't count, until she was well past the finish line. Maybe it was just because she got hit by an item right before the finish line, but it was still interesting nonetheless. Well, Megatoner looked into it and tried his best to replicate what Garby did. And it wasn't long before he posted this video. By hugging the corner super tight, the lap wouldn't count until much further along. So, all you had to do was finish the lap normally and you'd save a couple seconds. This was especially beneficial because unlike the Los Angeles and Texas shortcuts, you didn't have to turn around and hit the finish line precisely. You could just drive as you normally would and save time all the same. All you had to do was take one corner tight, and you'd save multiple seconds. This took 24 years to discover. But just how good are these new shortcuts? Well, in January, PerfectTaste came back to the game to try the new Texas shortcut. He immediately improved his 7-year-old lap of 22.73 all the way down to 22.06, then whittled it all the way down to 21.11, meaning this shortcut saved him over 1.6 seconds. Similarly, another veteran runner, Stacy Needham, also returned to the game and improved his 12-year-old time by nearly 2 seconds. Then, when the Everglades shortcut came out, PerfectTaste again made quick work of the old record. At first, he used Huey for his good drift and acceleration, with whom he improved his time from 20.13 to 19.86. Then, he found a comfortable setup with Ludwig, the game's fastest character, allowing him to drop the time further, to a 18.86, totaling to a second and a quarter of time save over the non-shortcut previous record. I was the second player to submit a run with this, and I got a time of 20.98, good for third place and beating several people who have held world records in this game, such as Hayate64 and Salt-Cured Fish. As a comparison, my course time on Everglades only ranks 9th, so this shortcut was providing a clear boost to my ranking here. Stacy Needham would also tackle his shortcut and managed to improve his time from 22.52 to 19.04, or nearly 3.5 seconds of time save. Overall, these new shortcuts save a lot of time for how simple they seem. Oh yeah, and there's been one more recent discovery. Megatoner found a new, much easier way of performing the Los Angeles shortcut. By driving backwards along a wall, you'd perform checkpoint skips similar to Texas, allowing you to hit the checkpoints that overlap with the bottom part of the track and get the delayed lap count. But this wouldn't change anything, right? Well, not quite. Megatoner found that you don't have to go as far forward on the track to perform this strategy. And using that knowledge, you could do this. First, drive the course normally up until the tunnel. After the tunnel, immediately bank hard right into the sand area. Then turn around, getting yourself close enough to the wall for the checkpoint skip. Continue driving backwards through the tunnel and hop into this grass section. In the grass, you can hit the finish line trigger and turn around. Once you turn around, repeat the same thing you did on lap 1. On lap 3, do the same. You can finish off lap 3 by just aiming straight for the finish line instead of worrying about turning around, making it a bit faster than lap 2. So there's now a shortcut route for the full course in Los Angeles. But could it really be viable? Well, Megatoner started doing attempts with this route. He used Dewey, who has low speed, but has great acceleration and the best off-road stat in the game, exactly what you need for this route. And slowly but surely, he brought his time down further and further, getting a 48.50, then 47.70, then 47.23, and then he improved to a 46.76, just 1/100th of a second from the world record. Could Megatoner, someone who'd even grind time trials regularly, actually get a world record? For the first time in the game's history, Dewey was used in a world record time trial. And more importantly, it was the first time that a course record was set using a shortcut. And it might not be the last. Megatoner has been hard at work trying to dissect this game's checkpoint system. In January, he discovered that by precisely clipping through a wall in Chicago, it'll make the game stop checking for checkpoints. He doesn't believe that this could lead to any shortcuts here, but replicating this on other courses might just lead to another shortcut. He recently learned how to model the game's courses and overlay the checkpoints over top of the model to see potential gaps or overlaps in checkpoints. Using this, he's already been able to theorize potential shortcut ideas. Many of his ideas involve jumping a certain portion of track, and there may just be a way to do so. Megastar has found that by precisely getting stuck inside of a corner of an invisible wall, you can sometimes get launched to insane heights. These are extremely precise, and may even be TAS only. But you never know. Besides, for 24 years, it was thought that there was only one shortcut even possible in this game. When Rare released Mickey Speedway USA in 2000, they probably didn't think people would be playing it at all over 24 years later. But now, the game's future is looking more promising than ever. Thanks for watching.